Hey there, this is Daniel West for Hero Arts. Thank you for joining me today. I'm going to recreate this card in a landscape version using a technique I'm calling spot blending. We're going to be using some ink from Hero Arts, the Embossing and Watermark Ink, the Hero Hues Reactive inks in Blue Raspberry, Blue Hawaii, and Purple Galaxy, a brand new reactive ink. We're also going to use the Love You Stampin' Cut XL. I've already die cut those 3 times for you. And we're going to use the Hero Hues enamel dots. These awesome little clear ones are my favorite of all of the enamel dots. They come in 3 different sizes so that you can place them in an array and add a bit of dimension to your project. The Hello There Stampin' Cut stamp set is also new in the catalog release for spring 2021. And the star of the show today is this puzzle fancy die. This is an A2 sized fancy die that makes a puzzle out of your die cut. You can see it doesn't have a cutting edge, but it does cut the puzzle pieces, leaving just a little piece connecting all of them together so that they don't fall out everywhere when you peel them up out of the die. I'm going to use my Wagner heat tool, some repositionable adhesive, a reverse tweezers. I'm going to use some purple tape and some pitch black cardstock, the very handy Hero Hues side folded cards, as well as some A2 size panels of Dove white cardstock. Blending with blender brushes, each with its own color, and the image we're using is the Hibiscus Flowers bold prints. This came out last month in the Hawaiian themed My Monthly Hero release, and I'm just going to put down one of my A2 card panels onto my MISTI with some repositionable adhesive and then prepare it with an anti-static powder tool. I don't want any of the stray embossing powder floating into the blue that I'm going to lay down here. So I'm just going to ink this up with the clear embossing ink and do that a few times off camera. Peel this up and then melt some white detail embossing powder over the top of it. This white detail embossing powder is a little finer than regular white embossing powder and will give us a really crisp look. Look how it lays over this embossing ink and melts just beautifully to offer me an opportunity to emboss resist with these blender brushes. Now for coloring this image in, it really is super simple and easy and very forgiving, especially since we're using 3 colors that sit next to each other on the color wheel. You just apply some ink in the center of each of these flowers. I'm using the new Purple Galaxy ink. It's a very bluish purple, bluish violet ink. Then some Blue Raspberry, which is a blue green for the leaves. And then in between all of it, to blend it all together, I'm going to use Blue Hawaii. You can see that my Blue Hawaii ink pad is not as juicy because I've used it so much. But I'm able to easily blend this together and make it look like I colored this in with some kind of marker. After blending all of the colors together, I'm going to wet a clean microfiber cloth with some water and wipe the excess ink off of the embossing powder. So now it really shines. And next, because this is reactive ink, I'm going to spritz some water over the top of it. This will help blend the colors, but it will also add a beautiful splotchy technique, a reactive technique. And then I'll blot that water up and we have the effect that we are looking for. Next, I'm going to take out my puzzle fancy die and tape my panel onto my die and run it through my die cutting machine. I use a Gemini Junior, and I also use a magic mat from scrapbook.com. That's my sandwich. And I'm going to make sure I don't add glue to this piece here on the bottom right. When you flip it over, it'll be the bottom right. It's the bottom left third of the card. I'm just going to pull that up, and I accidentally pulled a couple others up with it. I'm just going to pop those right back down. And then I'm going to lay down one of my A2 size card panels over the glue and press it down. I'm going to make sure that each piece is adhered to the front of this panel and then separate it from my fancy die. Then I'm going to press the pieces down again. I put enough glue on there to squish it in between all the pieces, and this is what the panel looks like. Next, I'm going to stack my U words up 3 times and then heat emboss it with some white detail embossing powder. Now, I did it twice. I'm not going to show you that on camera, but just to make sure it's nice and smooth, I did it twice. It'll add some shine to my word die. Then I trimmed the panel down about 1/8 of an inch on all sides. Let's create a sentiment strip here with the I Miss You stamp from the Hello There Stamp and Cut set. And I'm going to use my Tim Holtz tonic trimmer here to create a sentiment strip. You can see that I run out of cardstock here, and I'm going to have to push it through with a bigger piece of cardstock. So that's how I create my sentiment strips perfectly. I love the result. Next, I'm going to adhere my heat embossed die cut U to the bottom third of my card panel. I think I had a bit too much glue on the back of it, so I just dabbed it off on a piece of scrap cardstock. And now I can just place this exactly where I want it. Next, we're going to pop up the I Miss sentiment strip with some foam tape right above the word U, and we'll finish this off with some Hero Hues enamel dots. I always like to array them in a W or a zigzag, starting with the center one, the largest one, right in the middle of the 2 medium-sized enamel dots, and then finish it off with a smaller one on each end. There you can see how I positioned them. Next, we're going to flip this over and add some foam tape to the back and pop it on the front of our pre-folded note card. Quick tip here, align your longest side first and then pop it down. You'll have a higher % of success in aligning it correctly on all sides. Here is the vertical version of the card next to the landscape version. I like them both, but I think I like the left side best, the landscape version. I appreciate you spending some time with me today. If you haven't subscribed to the Hero Arts channel yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that button.